In the history of humanity, the most curious events have always occurred, and of these there are thousands of totally extraordinary examples. Today, I will tell you about one that, over the years, became all the rage among the thousands of stories about the Second World War in Nazi Germany. This is the story of a Jewish boy who managed to survive and escape the Jewish death camp barracks, but also testify against the Nazis when the war was over. What is his name? How did he accomplish this great feat? What happened to him afterwards? I will tell you all this and more. Before starting the video, I invite you to leave a like and subscribe to my channel to see more content like this. Without further ado, let's start with the video. His name was Janek Schleifstein, and he was born on March 7, 1941, in the middle of the Second World War, a place and year that was not at all lucky to be born, much less being a Jew, a characteristic that turned out to be the main target of the Nazis in the Germany from 1937 to 1945. He was a Polish-born American. His case gained publicity in 1999 with the anniversary of the 1997 film Life is Beautiful. Schleifstein's story was found to be an inspiration for the script. This led to a search for him and an eventual interview in a newspaper, where the story of him spread, and today we can tell it in this video. It could be said that his suffering began from his first year, which was when his parents hid him in a basement in the ghetto of that area, and he lived in absolute darkness for approximately 18 months. It is said that he only saw the light when his parents returned to bring him food and a couple of candles. He had to deal with those first moments of his life, with those terrible and devastating images, which for anyone, would be quite a trauma. In those moments it was crucial that the child knew how to keep quiet, even when the natural state of children is to cry and make noise. But his parents trained him very well so that this is not the case, since the slightest noise would alert the Nazi soldiers, since they were in hiding, and they had to stay in that place for a long time, until the war ended. By September 1943, the factory staff had been replaced by Poles, and the Jews were sent to the Buchenwald concentration camp. It was at that moment that Israel Schleifstein told Janek, who was only 3 years old, "Now we are going to play something interesting. I promise you 3 sugar cubes tonight. The conditions will be that you don't cry, whatever happens." In those conditions, sugar was something very important to them, although it is hard to believe. That child, who could only emit 2 or 3 words, perfectly understood what his mother was telling him, and he accepted immediately. The father made a large bag with holes for air, put his son inside, covered her with clothes on top of him, and slung the bag over his shoulders. In Buchenwald, the family was torn apart. Janek's mother was taken to another concentration camp, Bergen-Belsen, and the elderly and children who had come from other ghettos were shot right there, in front of the train, in front of the prisoners. Fortunately, 2 German communists helped hide the boy. Janek was given slices of bread from the meager rations in the camp, and rainwater was secretly brought to him. Certainly none of this was a luxury, but at least there was something to eat, a fact that not all Jews could enjoy, because they literally treated everyone like animals, to such an extent that most starved to death. One of the prisoners carved a small wooden horse, which ended up in Janek's hands. Thanks to this fact, as a result, this wooden toy did him a favor that he would be grateful for life, for the reason that the horse was discovered during an inspection of the barracks by a guard, an SS soldier named Rodenfuhrer. He searched the facilities and came across a hiding place where that child was hiding. This soldier had a son about Janek's age and he liked him quite a bit. Rodenfuhrer did not inform the commander about his discovery, but he left the boy in the barracks and called him Buchenwald's pet. In addition, he ordered to sew a children's camp uniform for her. From now on, the little prisoner was called for a morning checkup, so that at the end he will report, all the prisoners are counted. It was the lucky day for Janek, because not only was he going to be accepted by someone from the army, but he was also going to avoid being murdered like all the Jews.
However, not everything was rosy, because when high-ranking SS officers appeared at the barracks, Janek was once again put in a cache. All the children in Buchenwald would be destroyed. Once in February 1945, Janek was accidentally left unattended, went out to play in the yard, and caught the eye of the deputy director of the camp. He was enraged and ordered to transfer him to the courtyard of the Jews where he belonged. The boy was arrested to take him to the gas chamber, but his father begged him for a couple of days to say goodbye to the baby. Once again, a coincidence and a miracle occurred, since that same officer was sent to the Eastern Front. Israel Schliefstein hid his son again in the camp hospital, where the boy was hidden until April 11, 1945, when the Buchenwald prisoners revolted and captured the SS guards, when fortunately everything was over, because the end of the war put a full stop in the lives of all Jews imprisoned by the fearsome Nazis. A few hours after that episode, units of the United States Army's 7th Airborne Corps entered the camp. Undoubtedly, everything that family lived through, and above all that Jewish child, was both a nightmare and an achievement of good luck, because it must be taken into account that surviving in those concentration camps as Jews was basically impossible. Taking into account that literally everyday Jews were murdered, or starved to death, or brutally beaten. The chances of survival were nil, and fortunately this family, and despite the problems, managed to survive. After the war, it turned out that the boy's mother was saved, and she was later found in Dachau. Having regained health in 1948, the whole family left for the United States again, settling in Brooklyn. Soon a second son was born in that family. Israel Schliefstein, Janelle's mother, died in 1957, his wife in 1997. This case came to light after the Benigni film, as we mentioned earlier, when Yannick's story was discovered in the United States archives. Undoubtedly that story of survival was powerful enough to be adapted to the big screen. After giving the only interview of his life to journalists, Yannick withdrew from communication with the press forever. It was difficult for him to remember the details, since on the one hand he was painful, and on the other he was just a child at that time, and when he had given the interview, he was already very adult. Everything was difficult for him at that point. Yannick Schliefstein, difficult as it may seem, still lives in New York and is 81 years old, and today is a symbol of survival from those dark years, fruits of Nazi Germany. He commented that every night, as a result of those traumatic years, he sleeps with the light on, because he is deeply afraid of the dark. His stay in the basements of Czestochowa has deeply penetrated his psyche, making him, for obvious reasons, have psychological consequences of those fateful events. In 1947, a 6-year-old concentration camp inmate became the youngest witness in a trial against Buchenwald guards. As a result of this process, 22 security officers were sentenced to hang, 11 of them were executed, and Buchenwald Commandant Hermann Piester, on death row, died of a heart attack in a prison cell. This story leaves us with a great conclusion, and that is that, even in the worst moments in a person's history, you can continue to move forward, and survive the worst horrors of humanity. This was the story of Yannick Schliefstein, the Jewish boy who hid in the German army. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel to see more similar videos and turn on the notification bell so that YouTube will let you know. Notify me when we upload a new video. We upload videos every week, don't miss it. You will not regret.